Indigenous language dominance, relationships to cultural continuity by Adam S. Ibarra Jr. at University of Alaska Fairbanks. Language is arguably the most important thread in every culture throughout the world. This article seeks to trace that crucial relationship between the retention of the mother tongue and the preservation of these cultures. Some cultures were able to keep their language alive and resist colonization, but it is well documented that colonialism effectively stripped most indigenous cultures that it came in contact with of their native languages and traditional practices, denying them the right to cultural identity in favor of the dominant culture's language and identity. Before the written word, most cultures passed their history down through spoken word from the elders to the youngest generations of the tribe. Language dominance, whether intentional or not, has been used as long as war has been around and continues to this day. McCarthy notes, wherever there's a situation of domination and subordination between any two groups, whatever their color or religion, this will be reflected in the language relationship, one language dominating the other. Wathong. The history of the Indian boarding schools and the effects of colonization still echo across America. Many countries, including Canada, have finally begun acknowledging the abuse, genocide, and marginalization that Indigenous peoples in the US and throughout Canada have endured. The Indian schools employed systematic gentrification and whitewashing of countless children who were re-educated in the Western standard of society. One of the biggest impacts that Indigenous children in Alaska experienced was the language dominance imposed upon them by the educational system. According to Krauss, Sheldon Jackson's directive prohibited the use of native language in missions, classrooms, and punished physically and emotionally students who violated this policy. This type of systematic racism in the name of education is the reason why many tribes lost their native tongue since the advent of colonization in Alaska. And despite all the obstacles that have been put in their way, some tribes have managed to keep their mother tongues intact throughout the last century and many waves of colonization. Along with preserving their language, these communities have also managed to preserve many traditions, histories, and art techniques unique to each tribe. These tribes which have kept their native language intact maintain much closer ties to their traditional way of life and cultural continuity throughout their groups. Cultural continuity consists of the ways a culture is able to pass down its language and knowledge from one generation to the next. Anthropologists have spearheaded efforts to help revitalization of languages in danger of being lost. Although many tribes throughout Alaska have all but lost their native speakers, there has been a resurgence in language revitalization efforts in the last decade. The revitalization and preservation of language is a concerted effort between anthropologists and tribal leaders. This kind of effort not only encourages the youngest generation to gain further practice in their mother tongue, but also connects them to their own cultural identity across multiple generations. Language is so vital to cultural identity and cultural continuity that a Yupik elder describes it as an aspect of collective self-recognition. The Yupik language is also viewed as a vital part of cultural and biological continuity. Hence, some have told me that they want their children to speak the Yupik language simply because they want to be remembered. Schwab's study of two tribes of Yupik in Alaska that had been one tribe but were split by borders changing between Russia and the United States in the 1950s notes the stark contrast between the two tribes after 50 years apart. The tribe in U.S. territory on St. Lawrence Island in the town of Gambell has largely kept its language intact, while simultaneously the tribe of Yupik on the Russian side in Novo Chapolino has almost completely lost its native tongue. People of Gambell on St. Lawrence Island have many native speakers, yet the counterparts in Novo Chapolino have been gentrified and victimized for speaking their own language, since they were considered to be part of Russia in the 1950s border change. This intolerant regime has caused the residents of Novo Chapolino to be forced to speak Russian in place of their own language since the split. The Siberian Yupik tribe has since developed another dialect which is referred to as Chiplinsky. Although they were only separated by about 60 kilometers, they have been divided by a human-made border as well. Notes: language is a complex web of identity and culture. So it is no surprise that the cultural identity of the Yupiks in Novo Chapolino have been compromised. It is only in the stark comparison of these two distinct cultures that were once one people that we can see how much that cultural continuity depends upon language and one's own mother tongue. As the two tribes finally meet, they are no longer able to speak to each other because one of the groups has lost its language. In conclusion, the value of language is immeasurable. It has so much to do with how we each perceive the world and how we identify ourselves in our place in the world. It makes perfect sense that language would be the crucial thread tying everyone within a culture together. Language is so important, and no other piece of a culture holds as much history as its own unique spoken language. And some indigenous cultures have resisted colonization and were able to keep their languages alive along with traditions and history of their unique cultures. It is my sincere hope that these preservation efforts continue and the native cultures of Alaska are celebrated by everyone as they should be.